Pressed it. Ah. That was the Trey Goodwin face. I have it all my pictures saved.
We're
So yeah,
mute that. Come on, we're better than that.
yeah. No. Hi guys.
Week
Welcome.
9.
Welcome to the Week 9 edition of 4th and 1. As always, with me is Coach Trey. How are we feeling today, man?
Feeling good. Today was one of those days where I had to start it off by going on TikTok and finding a Joey Diaz motivational video because today was a day. But some pretty promising things going on in the personal life, and then also on the college sports bettings. I think week 9 we're finally starting to figure out how to not lose all of our money and what exactly is where we're making our hay at. But with anything, it's a big bye week in college football, so a lot of teams are kind of out. Maybe just a couple of big games on the slate. But as always, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there's not much going on as far as some marquee games this week. Obviously, next week there are several. I guess before we get into this week, let's just maybe, now that we're in week 8, or we're through week 8, what's our thoughts maybe on Heisman, national championship, conference winners? Is there anything that stands out in particular, or what's the biggest story of college football so far in your opinion? I know that's a lot of questions thrown your way, but let's just talk about it.
Can we say the fall of Caleb Williams?
You aren't kidding. That's a good point. I mean, they lose 2 games in a row, and he's irrelevant.
It's over. Yeah, it's over for the repeat. You know, I talked about this before actually, but if it's fair, I think this is one of those seasons where there's no one dominant team. We've already talked about this before. There's no one dominant team, so you're definitely going to have multiple facets of storylines and multiple ones in general. So I think if you're going to take it, maybe let's just say coast to coast. The fall of Caleb Williams. In fact, I'm trying to actually get the Heisman odds up right now, so I'll reference that. But the fall
I can tell you what it is off the rip whenever you want to get into it.
That's a big one for me. The NCAA in Michigan. I mean, that seems kind of like the little and big brother fight, and then away from that, man, the complete lack of we're scared of you from the SEC. I don't think any other conferences are really tripping about the SEC this year. I mean, you saw Georgia, kind of flex their muscle against UK, but I don't know, man. It's the Bama's down this year, the LSU's down this year. Is Florida's mid? I mean, it kind of seems like that's the narrative, and so it's kind of like who's going to take the opportunity for it to be somebody different.
No, yeah. I mean, I think you're right. The SEC, there's just not a intimidation factor like there used to be, especially, and that can be externally and internally within the conference. I mean, as an LSU fan, I really don't feel scared about this week, next weekend. Typically we're always, oh yeah, Bama's on the schedule. That's always going to be a really tough game. And a lot of times, with the exception of 2019 and others, we kind of just chalk that up as an L, right? I mean, maybe not you, but someone that is realistic like me, I would chalk that up as an L. This year, I think Vegas has it completely wrong. It opened up as an 11.5 point spread for Alabama that quickly got cut in half, and we sit at 5.5 right now. I would not be shocked if you see heavy money come in on LSU. I just don't get that line. Bama's just not that team this year. I could be completely wrong. Bama could pull their pants down and completely embarrass them. I just don't see that happening. So, I mean, they might win a close game, sure. I just think that line's way off, and I would be interested to see how the line would be if the game was in Tiger Stadium, because I don't think it would be 5.5. And usually, the odds makers don't account for more than a field goal or a field goal and a half for home and road games. So something tells me that's just the wrong line. I think it should be a field goal at the most.
4.5.
That's what it is right now. Okay, so that's already gone down. But yeah, I mean, just going on to my point, the intimidation factor is not there. And maybe for Georgia it is because whenever they want to try, I guess is their motto now. Whenever they want to try, they're pretty damn good. Heisman odds, I didn't think Jaden Daniels was going to hold his own. And quickly after week 1, because he was slated as the number 2 favorite in the odds at the beginning of the season, and I kind of thought that was crazy. I'm not going to lie. I didn't see that. And of course, LSU loses game 1. His stock takes a hit. But now he's right back in it, tied for second place at plus 300. So that's a shock to me. He's playing about as good as any quarterback in the country right now. I know we're going to get into some debates on whether it should be him or J.J. McCarthy or Penix. Penix still, Washington has a bunch of tough games coming up. He has struggled the last several games. So yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. And then you're right, Michigan, there's a lot of nastiness going on in Ann Arbor, and I don't know really how to feel about it because you might consider them the Houston Astros of college football. They're not banging on drums and beating on drums, but stealing signs is basically doing the same thing as far as football is concerned. So that's a big deal. I don't think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people are just it's going over their head. That's a big deal, man. And if this wasn't in the regular season, I think they're going to get some harsh penalties if the accusations become true. So that's just a big deal in my opinion. I think a lot of people are overlooking that. That's going to be probably more in the off season. It's going to be a bigger deal, but that's bad.
Yeah,
the accusations are bad.
And I think they're trying to recruit Bryce right now, the number 1 player in the nation right now. You got a quarterback in your backyard who. So to be honest, this one kind of maps like Justin Fields is kind of like the comp that you get a lot of times from people as far not, and I'm not telling you that their play type is the same. And in fact, I'm not really sure anybody's trying to play like Justin Fields at this current moment. However, as I have him on 2 of my fantasy teams. But what I will say is that the way that he's being recruited, kind of a soft-spoken kid, likes to have fun, comes on the recruitment, dances, sings, like has all the fun. There is a little bit of flash to him. So whenever he signed with Georgia at the beginning, if you remember Justin Fields, it was kind of like, really? Like, is this the cool spot to be? So I think he was one of those first ones. And then when he transferred, by the way, because they were still in the Les Miles Stone Age, he transfers out and goes to Ohio State, and everyone was like, well, I mean, that kind of checks out. That kind of feels like where he probably might have gone in the first place. Like it felt like he was committing to Georgia because he was just trying to commit to the best team, and he wasn't going to go to Alabama at the time because they had, everybody at QB at the time. So what I'll say is that right now, I can promise you that Jim doesn't care about anything other than the way that it's affecting his recruiting. He's not going to be let go. He's not going to be fired. He's not going to leave for the NFL over something like this. But what I will tell you is that this is a lot more common than you think. An article came out today about Ed Orgeron's responsive comments to like Clemson doing it in the national championship. I'm here to tell you that 100,000% happened. There's no way for me to prove that. But if you ask anybody around the program, anybody that's around that reports on the team, when you were in Atlanta, you were in, at the SEC championship, and you're trying to figure out like who these polos are, and people and names get passed around, and they're saying, oh, that's so-and-so with the team. And you're like, well, I'm sitting right next to them and we're both eating nachos. Like, why else would they be at the game? So I'm sitting here telling you that, like, yes, it's a big deal, but I'm with Dion in a little bit, Roos, in that you still have to stop it. Like, that on 4th and 1 and 4th and inches, Derrick Henry's getting the ball. You still have to stop his big ass.
I agree with that in a sense. But I
Yeah, it's
think
wrong. It's illegal. You can't
but
do
the same issue was kind of used with the baseball and the Houston Astros. Well, you still have to hit the ball. But I
That's
mean,
different, man. That's different. That's way
dude,
different.
knowing the play calls, I'm not comparing them like exactly, but that is basically what they did. Like if you're crossing over sports, that's bad.
It is bad,
Bad.
and to be, and this is to be fair and candid, as Yankee fans, we shouldn't be responsible for commenting on the Astros because I won't be unbiased. I won't.
Well,
So
they got their justice.
so
Again, they've dealt with their justice. They've been shit on
right.
for years since then. I don't
And
like whatever. I'm not like I'm not gonna
look,
sulk
man,
over it.
and
But
this is coming from two kids that weren't recruited to play college sports. Like I wasn't recruited to play for anybody great. Like I had a very like brief moment in the sun where I thought I might could to do something, and the Lord and genetics both, crap on that fair. So I just got really good at, at communication and school and, but seeing this from a 10,000 foot view, I think from not only a civilian, but a fan standpoint does allow us to be able to kind of like look at this and say, yes, this is wrong, but was it also wrong that kids have been getting challengers and F-150s for years and years to go and play football? And then you never cared if it was for your team. You didn't care if Tua came to play for you, but he, hadn't bought his canes in 4 years. And you certainly didn't care if Sam Hartman pulls up on your campus and he's got a loaded F-350 and a deer lease, and you have no idea how he got that, but it's your team, so you don't care. And I get it, but I think when the sun sets on this, it's going to be another NCAA wants their pound of flesh. And if you're an LSU fan, you know all about their pound of flesh. They literally dropped everything. You lost your basketball coach over it. Now they're paying they're paying their piper on that. And so I think this is so NCAA that people are going to start flipping on the NCAA and siding with Michigan. You're seeing that already with some of the voices and the powers that be. People are so over the NCAA that they are literally to the point where they do not care. Like some people that are legit about this are going, you're doing something wrong. You have to pay the punishment. You were 5 over in a 35. You speeding in a school zone. You got to get your ticket. And then there's some people that are like,
Chris Olave and go 35 miles per
listen,
hour.
You're in Kenner. You've lived in New Orleans more than a year. You already know how that. Stop. Please stop. Don't speed in Kenner. Anywhere but Kenner. So look, I'm gonna get off my horse on this. I'm tired of talking about this because I feel like this is such like a freaking back and forth thing. I'm with you. It's wrong. Don't do it. But the problem is the silence from the program on it. They're doing what other programs should have done. They're taking the Auburn and the Bruce Pearl method of basically telling the NCAA to suck their butt. Like truthfully, Michigan is kind of going.
No, I agree.
I mean, and look, by the way, they're still the best team in the Big Ten without sign stealing.
I mean, arguably in the country.
Doesn't mean they can't be beat, but without that, they are still the best team in the Big Ten.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I would argue they're the best team in the country. Them in Georgia. I mean, I think that's pretty clear.
Their schedule is so weak, but they're just so much better than them. But they do what they're supposed to do against those people. And I'm so tired of, do they have to play who they play? You think the players want to play Northern Vermont, or do you think that they want to play, the Oklahomas and the LSUs and the Auburns of the world? Like, come on, dude.
One more talking point before we get into maybe a couple of matches this week is
blood pressure's getting high. Jesus.
What were your thoughts on James Franklin's comments about their game over the weekend? I know we watched a little bit of that on the stream and watched it in its entirety. What are your thoughts? Is that delusion?
No.
Fact or fiction? What's your opinion on that?
It is not delusion. It's coach speak. This is Brent Venables. We're going to change the culture at the beginning of the preseason and the beginning of the season. And everyone's going, what are you trying to change about Oklahoma, big bro? Like what's there to change? We just had Lincoln Riley. We need to keep the culture is what you're here to pack. It's the Brian Kelly. Your defense is bad. So everybody's now all of a sudden young. No, they're not. You're protecting the kids. You're rewarding your team for playing a hard fought, slow, low-paced, low-scoring game by saying that you believe truthfully, he believes that his team is one of the best in the country. He's supposed to think that, but being taken in that way, he could have worded it better. I think he probably shot himself in the foot a little bit because there is not one person that watches college football outside of the state of Ohio and Pennsylvania that believe that those two teams are the best teams in the NCAA, because they're not. They are not. And there's no argument that you can provide me to make me feel that way. Can they end up winning? Can Penn State run it? Can Ohio State run it and win the whole thing? Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. But I don't think that was bulletin board material either. But you and I watched that game with all four of our ocular stems. They're not the best team in the country. Greg was there too, so there were 6 pairs of stems there.
I agree. I think the takeaway I got from that is Penn State's defense is real. They might be the best defense in the country. What they did to Ohio State was impressive. If they had a pulse at quarterback, I think they would have maybe won that game by a touchdown and a half or 2. I just think Drew Lohr played one of the worst games I've seen. Chalk it up to pressure, chalk it up to the moment that he wasn't built for. But man, if you had a pulse at quarterback, that's a different game because that defense is insane. Lots of big plays, kept them in the game for a very long time, longer than it should have been. Yeah, so I get the coach talk. I think we all agree that they're not the best, and I chalk it up as delusional just from a media perspective. Tell that to your players, Tell that to your players. Don't go out and say something that bad. If it was Ohio State last year and Penn State this year, I'd say, maybe you got a point. But moving on,
we almost gagged having to watch that.
It was bad. I mean, we had to turn the stream off. That's the least fun I've had watching a college football game
in a really long time.
So I guess the first game we can get into, and this isn't like a marquee matchup, but we've got number 7 Texas hosting BYU at 2:30 p.m. Central Time. The big news coming here is that starting quarterback Quinn Ewers is out for a little bit, and they are planning on starting redshirt freshman Maalik Murphy. That's going to be tough. One, you ask yourself, where's Cooper, or whatever his name is, Manning, the Manning. Yeah. Yeah, is that his name, Cooper?
I don't even think that it matters, Anthony. Like
I get the Mannings mixed up.
I don't think that even matters. Truthfully, I mean, Malik has the talent to be what Alabama wanted.
Oh, Cooper's the brother.
No, jeez, Arch.
Arch. There it is, Arch.
I really didn't know like what you were asking because I was trying to actually pull up
dude,
that I had. But no, you're good.
I lost faith in him once he banished from our team.
So look, so it seems as though, and you can even ask like some of our Texas friends on this. Like Malik is what Alabama thought Jalen Milroe was going to be like, and I'm not telling you Jalen Milroe can't be great. I'm just saying that he's not. I think Malik needs time, but Malik's a young man. But when he throws the ball, and you move a different C in your neck when he throws it because he throws it 90 feet in the air. You do this joint here when he throws it. Like it's different. Like it's very, very, very similar to what you see when Jalen Milroe throws the ball. He's just an athletic specimen, truthfully. But he needs time, and I don't hate BYU in the points.
I was going to go there. I mean, I think 19's extremely a lot.
That's a lot, brother.
BYU's defense is not bad. I know this because I've lost several bets betting against them.
So aggravating.
So, yeah, I mean, I just thought that was an interesting number. 19's a lot. Maybe tease it if you're not comfortable with 19.
Right.
Or maybe alt spread it. But, yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Just with one, Arch not getting any kind of. I guess they're just sitting him. He'll be the backup, obviously, for this game. So if something happens to Malik, he'll get in. But yeah, I just thought that was an interesting number and a good way to maybe segue into my next matchup, which is Georgia Florida, two teams that were very interested in Arch Manning. The number one team, Georgia, is a 14.5-point favorite going into the Swamp, or is this in Jacksonville? Is this
Yeah, Jackson. It's in
Jacksonville, so it's not. It's the Swamp. So now that makes more sense looking at it. Because I was about to say 14.5 is a lot going into the Swamp.
Yeah, it's usually they flip flop home and away. I would love to see this game go back to a home and home, but
yeah. Look, in my opinion here, I think Georgia had a lot to prove last week, and I will go on a limb and say this might be a letdown game from Georgia that they've shown the letdown sickness over and over again this year. Don't be shocked if Florida covers this. That's all I'm saying. This is probably the biggest game of the season for them. Every time they've had a moment like this since the first game of the season, they've stepped up. Not saying they're the most talented team in the country or the best team in the country, but they have shown glimpses of hope and promise. So I'm taking the Gators and the points there. I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm going to chalk this up as a letdown game after last week, where they did go out and prove that they were the number one team. They did their job, but I just don't think they did that 2 weeks in a row. Not without Brock Bowers.
So I don't love Brock not being in the game. The problem, and you can make an argument about this being Florida's biggest game. They hate Florida State. Like we don't.
No, I understand.
They hate them. So so Florida State obviously for them, but and again we talked about this like at the beginning of the season. The end of this did not seem bad. Like we didn't think that Tennessee would be the same. We thought they'd be okay. They are nowhere close to as good as they were last year. Tennessee on the offensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball, by the way, is where they've stepped up. Their D line's a bunch of gangsters, but we talked about this, and I brought this up 2 weeks ago and last week. Do we not agree that like all of a sudden Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee kind of sounds like you know what I'm saying? Like not again, I'm not saying that they're, gonna be, the like the 86 Bears, but like, brother,
No,
you still have to strap it in and play it up because Missouri's scoring. I'm sorry. Like unless they play like the LSU Alabama stuff and Missouri just gets big brothered, Missouri is scoring points. And again, we're talking about this like Florida can't score points either. Florida's going to score. Like Graham Mertz is picking it up. They just may and could easily lose the rest of their games. Florida can, but they could also continue to keep winning. And I got pushback on this because I said Florida was starting to kick it in gear a little bit. Graham Mertz isn't playing bad. I think Georgia wins that game. That is a lot of points. I also like the fact that Georgia gets Missouri at home. And they are very, 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 very lucky that they're getting Ole Miss at home. Not because Ole Miss and Oxford is a hard place to go and play. It's because Ole Miss just doesn't play as great historically on the road under Lane Kiffin as they do at home. But they have to go to Neyland before you get the layup at Georgia Tech. Like you have to go to Neyland. So whatever they do against Florida, you have to then follow that up with a 2:30 game with Missouri. And that's not going to be, easy.
Yeah.
And there's no remaining buys that I'm seeing. So it's boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So we'll see. A lot of points.
Agreed.
I agree.
Agreed. Lots of points. And you mentioned Graham Mertz, but I think their strong suit right now is the two-headed monster in the backfield. And that's Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne.
Nasty, bro.
If those two guys get going, I'm telling you, this can be a game. Not saying Georgia's going to lose, but this game is going to be close and maybe will come down to the last possession or two. That's all I'm saying. So that I just think there's a lot of, when you see a lot of weird numbers like this by the odds makers, they're either completely right or completely wrong. So they'll either look like rocket scientists or, we'll come back on this show and pretend like we solved the puzzle. But But those are the two big those are two games. I know Oregon, number 8 Oregon's playing number 13 Utah. Utah's coming off that impressive victory over USC on the road. We'll see if that holds the test of time as far as impressive is concerned, because USC, the wheels might be coming off. You might see Caleb Williams take a step back and sell out for the draft, even though he's been very hesitant and clear on his intentions with that. I don't really have thoughts. I'm not going to lie to you. I forgot Cam Rising was back because I turned that game on.
Is he back?
I turned that game on last week, and he was he was playing quarterback. So something changed. Either he came in halfway through or what. But Cam Rising's back, man, and I don't know in what capacity. I don't know if that was I don't know what that was, but he definitely came in the game and made an impact because he drove them down the field and got them in field goal range, and they kicked the game-winning field goal as time expired. So
I knew that I heard this. Russo, Cam Rising, and Brant and their tight end were shut down for the season.
Cam Rising.
Cam Rising and tight end Brant will not see actually. Yeah, so they shut him down. They came out and said that Rising suffered a devastating knee injury, blah blah blah. Terry multiple ligaments.
So literally, okay. Then I'm selling. Then I'm going to blame this on the broadcast.
Okay.
Because I was literally listening to it, and he said Cam Rising.
That checks out. No, he's out for the season.
Okay, well then that check because I wasn't fully watching. And I'm not trying to not sound like an idiot because there's plenty of names to know, but I was watching the last 2 possessions of that game, and I swear on God, the guy said Cam Rising.
If you want to get into the weeds a little bit, they get Oregon at home. Same thing. Oregon doesn't play as great on the road as they do at home, but they're also getting Arizona State at home to follow, and then they also have to go to UW. And then go to Arizona, and then they get and finish the year with Deion and the Buffs at home. So It's not like Utah's got this, clear path to, be in the team from the Pac-12 to get it done. Okay, it's
I expunge everything I say now that I know Cam Rising's out.
Oh, dude, it feels like, and again, I'm not telling you that Washington and Oregon aren't going to see each other again, but it feels like all of those teams can lose and might lose one.
Washington should have lost last week if Arizona State didn't throw a pick six from their
lucky.
Yeah, that almost and you don't gain anything from throwing a game in college because it's not like there's a draft, but that almost felt like that game was thrown.
It would have been
play calling I saw because it was
that
abysmal.
would have sewn up the Heisman Trophy for everyone else. And if you wanted to get into it, with the last 2 minutes here, I think it's and this is all respect to JJ. You already know that I stand with Michigan a lot of the times with the media hate that they get. I'm all for the kids getting benefit of the doubt. JJ McCarthy being considered a Heisman front runner is pretty laughable to me. The stats don't suggest it. I'm not telling you he doesn't deserve it. I'm not telling you he's not good. I'm not telling you he's not playing great. The comparison is pretty far with Michael Penix and Jaden Daniels and the rest of them. I think being the quarterback of an undefeated Big Ten team right now doesn't warrant the season that those other 2 guys are having.
No, agreed.
That can change starting this weekend. But as it stands today, if the award happened today, I think it has to go to Jaden Daniels, considering that he's doing what Michael Penix is doing, but with the running piece. But Penix has played 1 less game, I think.
I'm not 100% sure. I will say Penix has not looked clean in his last couple of games, and that reflects in the odds. JJ McCarthy's been playing well as of late, but if we're looking at his campaign as a whole in comparison to Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix, then I agree with you. I think that is laughable. Yeah. I think the notion of, and this happens with every MVP race or every most valuable player, whatever the award may be called in any sport, we've got to start recognizing the individual performance way more than the team's record is concerned. It's a factor. Don't get me wrong. It plays a factor, but it shouldn't determine, because a lot of emphasis and weight is put on
dude
that, and that's BS, and you know it.
Does it not feel like Max Duggan with JJ McCarthy? Like you're the quarterback of the team that's undefeated. Like you're the quarterback of the team that you're doing your job. Like, but my problem, and that may be a bad comparison, but my problem is that you immediately turn to like because quarterbacks don't win the game all by itself. Quarterbacks don't win the game all by themselves. So whenever teams win the game, if it's a Heisman hater, they'll go, well, so-and-so caught how many balls and how many yards, and he ran for how many balls and how many yards, and the offensive line, the defense. But as soon as they lose, he couldn't tote his team to a victory. Like all of a sudden, Jaden Daniels is supposed to be hurt because Florida State was better than him in week 1. Like he didn't do anything wrong. Like he still got his. But the problem is, on the same limb, a different story is true when Michael Penix didn't play well in a game where they barely escaped a not good football team. That's fair. What I'm trying to say is JJ McCarthy being that high in odds feels a little bit too Vegas for me. That feels like anything can make that number go sky high. Anything.
Of course. I think it's just I think he's a placeholder, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
You go look at his stats in comparison to others. I mean, the only thing he's got for him is his completion ratio.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's over 78%. But if you look at the pass attempts, they don't pass the ball that much, man. They just don't. And that's just a credit to his team. They have a solid O-line. They have a solid run game. They have one of the best running backs in the country, who should be getting more credit probably than what he's getting. He was getting a lot of credit last year until he got hurt. So I agree. I think he's a placeholder. I think you might have had a lot of Michigan fans go heavy on him, maybe to boost those odds. It wouldn't shock me if that was the case, but Jaden Daniels should be the front runner in my opinion as well. Take the homer out of it or not. That would be my feeling right now, and that should be true because I'm not a homer when it comes to being realistic with my team. So anyways, I guess we can cap it off there, man. We will have a slate. We'll have a card for you guys at some point, probably in the 2:30 games for Saturday and on. I'm not really interested in anything in the morning shift, but yeah. So I think that's it for me. Is there anything else from you, my man?
The one thing I'll say is I don't love whenever it feels like we have to talk down on one team or one kid. I love what JJ's doing, dude, because for far too long, Michigan has been are they the Georgia of the North? Like, are they just going to run the ball and never throw it? Like, are they going to adopt? Bro, Jim don't care. Jim's going to run the ball and play defense and have down the center face masks like the Steelers in the 80s and win games that way. That's what he wants to do. But I will say it feels like when there's a bye week, there's a little bit luster to be lost. I don't agree with that. I think that there are still games to watch. I will be tuned in big time to the Western Coast game. I'm going to stay up. I'm just going to chug a ready and make some coffee and get it popping. But as far as Georgia and Florida, that's kind of a big one to me. I really want to see what Florida can do against a big opponent like that. But really, really, really interested to see where this goes because it feels like the Heisman race is just kind of like waiting in the wings here. But
yeah,
no, I feel good about it, man. 9 weeks in, Jesus.
It is flying by. Well, that will put a cap on our stream today. Be lookout on the Twitter. We can't say enough about our fans and following. We get a lot of people that watch our videos more or less after we're live, and that's what kind of our goal is. We want to go live to be interactive, but we also just want to get content out there for people that might not be able to watch it at the same time. Shout out to the Baton Rouge Zydeco tonight, making their hockey regular season debut. Finally got a hockey team back in our local area, and that's it for us, man. Hope y'all take care.
Peace and love, boys and girls.